You are listening to Inspired Caring with Michelle Magner, episode number 119. Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michelle Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Hey, you guys, I wanted to share this really special conversation that I had with you with Ellen. And the connection that I have with Ellen is kind of funny. My mother is the one who suggested that she and I speak because she had recently lost her mother after a really long period of time where there was multiple options of care happening for her mom. And the connection that I have with Ellen is that she is my mother's husband's ex-wife. But my mother's husband has 4 kids, and everybody has been getting married and having babies, and they all live in the same area. So it's just a really lovely, friendly situation. I was really grateful to my mom for connecting me with Ellen. So we could have this conversation, and it just felt really special to me that she was willing to talk through her mother's final days and what led up to that. And it's a precious conversation. It's going to sound like we start in the middle of it. Once we got connected on Zoom, I should have immediately hit record, but we just hit the ground running. So you didn't miss much before this conversation picks up. I just am really excited to bring this to you. Enjoy it. It's all of the anticipation and excitement and things in life that we look forward to sharing with people.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it took me 2 years when my grandmother passed away before, that feeling that you get like, "Oh, I should call."
Yes. As
Like,
a matter of fact, one day I got in my car. I used to always call my mom like before she was ill. Like the best time to call her was before 11 in the morning or after 11 at night because she was a night owl. And I got in my car and it was like 9:30 in the morning. I thought, oh, I better call mom, before she gets going. And then I realized, so I called my sister Sharon and I said to Sharon, I thought about calling mom and I realized she was gone, so I'm calling you instead. It was that I had to, anyhow, it's just takes a long time to get past that.
it really does.
Yeah,
And like to your point that it's been a long period of time since your father passed away, there's still just those little things that it just feels so raw. It's just on the surface again.
exactly.
Yeah.
With my dad, uh, my son said to me today, it's a testament to all of us that, your father's been gone for so long, and yet the business is really thriving, and so
Yeah.
good on you to think about that
And
instead
that
of
his memory is
that he's gone,
yeah,
you
and that
know?
his memory's so alive that it still generates sadness that he's not here, right? It's like part of his legacy.
Exactly, and he's
Um,
not here, but, you know,
yeah.
I think having mom gone too made it harder this year.
Yeah. It's these it's the milestones. And you're right, Ellen, it just takes time For
It
it to not
does.
feel so on the surface.
It does. I'm doing much better this time with my mom than I did with my dad. Like when my dad passed, I fell into such a depression for a long time.
Mm,
Whereas with mom, it was her time. She was
yeah.
89 years old. She had been unwell for a long time. She wasn't really my mom
Hmm.
anymore, but I'm an orphan.
Sure. And
I'm
it
old
doesn't.
enough to be an orphan, just so you know. I mean, I'm 68 years old. I'm certainly old enough, but it's still this weird feeling, you
And
know.
it's a very unique feeling. And I just got chills because for us, we had a holiday, and my husband's mother had had dementia for a really long time. So we had gotten used to her not being there with us. But then his dad passed away. And it was during that holiday, I was looking around the room and we're 51. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, there are no grown-ups here.
Yeah, that's the thing, like honestly, and thank goodness Sharon likes to be the queen. So I've sort of, because I'm the oldest, but I've let her take over. I
Beautiful.
don't want to be the adult.
Yeah. She
I don't
can
want to
be the
be the old
matriarch.
lady in the crowd,
She
but
can be the
not with the
matriarch.
responsibility,
Yeah.
but yeah, we still like, um, we were supposed to do Passover like we would normally have done. And
Mhm.
Sharon and Lori came back from Florida with COVID. Then all my kids who were supposed to come in were also sick. And so we never really got to do Passover.
Mhm.
So that was really hard, being that it was, the first Passover without mom. Um,
Right.
so I don't know. I think for the Jewish holidays, I think we had said that after the first year we'd start going to Toronto, but I think that for the next Jewish holiday, we're going to do it here because
Oh,
we
that's
never got
nice.
to do Passover.
Yeah.
Just one
How
more hand.
how long were you like helping her or involved with her care? She passed away at 89. Like how many years has it been when
Okay. Well, mom, it's hard to remember, but mom really, first of all, she had very bad stenosis. So she was not walking for like a really long time. She had surgery, it got better. She fractured her hip, she had it replaced, it got better. And then she was around, I think, 84. Like I think it's been 5 or 6 years since she was declared incapacitated. And so at that point, at the beginning, it was just mild. She just had, Rosie was her only caregiver
Mhm.
and who had been there with her for a long time. And then she uh, was using a walker, but she was still able to function. And in 2019, like this part I remember, in 2020, sorry, the weekend of COVID, we went
Mhm.
into lockdown for COVID. Um, so I'm going to go back for a minute. Her dementia was manageable. She wasn't allowed to sign documents. We still checked in on her. Sharon and I were in Florida. We would take her to the doctor, do stuff with her. I mean, one of the appointments, my son Jason was there. So one of the family always went with her to the doctor.
Mm,
So we were
so
really
smart.
clear on what was happening, because although Rosie would go with her, we wanted to really be clear of what to do. And then in 2020, the weekend we went into lockdown, um, she broke her hip.
Mm,
And what
right.
had happened was Frank and we had rented the place in Florida. Sharon and Lori had just got down there. We went to, Frank and I were supposed to fly mom home with us on the Tuesday. We went down, packed up the condo, because everything was locking up. And so we spoke with the doctor. Sharon and I spoke with the doctor in Florida, and I think it was Sharon and I, it may have been just Sharon even, because I was still flying, I think, and the doctor in Florida and the doctor in Ottawa, and they decided she was too unstable to transfer her to Ottawa to have the surgery. So she had the surgery in Florida. And at that time in Florida, if you weren't around for 2 weeks, you couldn't go to the hospital. So none of us could go to the hospital.
Oh my
But
gosh.
my cousin Linda and Archie were there and had been there long enough. So they were allowed to go see her. And they kept her, I think, about 5 or 6 days after surgery, once they felt she was stable enough. At that point, Sharon and Lori were there long enough to go. Frank and I flew ahead home, and we uh, we air ambulanced her to the Ottawa hospital.
Okay.
And just so you know, part of the reason she fell was because Rosie, her caregiver, was sick and went home, and we hired somebody else. And mom was not really comfortable with her, so she got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom on her own. She fell,
Yeah.
broke her.
Oh my goodness.
So when she came back to Ottawa, she was in uh, because of COVID. The first day she was there, my son and my daughter-in-law worked, Daniel's wife worked at the ICU at the hospital. And so they were allowed in, and we gave them money and everything. But starting the next day, no one was allowed in. So she was really in isolation. And at that point, she, like, I guess between the surgery and the stress of all of it, we had no way to communicate with her, like just by calling the hospital and speaking to the nurses when they had time. And it was
Right.
COVID. And then they kept her there for about a week in isolation. And then they were putting her into Briere, like a rehab home. And
Okay.
they put her back into isolation, and we said, that's it. So we hired, like, quickly got on the phone with a caregiving company and hired caregivers to come in. We called around to find out what kind of equipment she needed, got all the equipment in, and brought her back to her condo where we could take care of her. But more than that, we put on masks and we could go see her. And
Hmm.
she had people around, and she was in a familiar surroundings, and she wasn't all by herself.
Right. And it was
Of
her
the
condo in
concept
Florida?
in Ottawa.
In
She's now
Ottawa.
in
Okay.
Ottawa. Remember, we
Okay.
flew her back.
Yeah,
And from
yeah.
that point on, there was a bit of a struggle in getting good caregivers. But when we were allowed, when Sharon and I were allowed, like when we were in lockdown, we weren't allowed to drive. But
Mm.
when we were allowed, we go over, someone was there. Someone was there to help her, so we could FaceTime her every day and be involved. Sharon always, for years, took care of all of mom's banking,
Mm.
and so that was sort of that. She had a secretary who took care of all her bills. So from that perspective, she was cared for. This was more just personal attention.
Right.
And then in January, and it was very up and down for the first 8 months. It was very up and down if she was going to make it, like she'd have very bad periods and good periods. And then she seemed to come around, not mentally, but physically. And then in January of 2021, she developed COVID. But what happened was the caregivers called me and said, I think your mom has pneumonia. So I went over there and I called the doctor and we did the stats and everything. And the doctor said, I think you have to call the ambulance and get her to the hospital. So when they got her to the hospital, they did an x-ray and realized it wasn't pneumonia, it was COVID.
Mm.
Was only there for about 2 days. She had had all her shots. She was doing fine. Her oxygen was good. They sent her home. She did fine. And
Good.
then I'm trying to remember maybe it was in maybe it was in 2022. It may have been in 2022. It may have been in 2022. Then in April, she had a bad kidney stone
Oh my
and
goodness.
she ended up in the hospital with surgery, but she had to stay there for a while, but she was okay. I was away, Sharon took care of her. And then in the end of May, she went to my cousin's wedding and got COVID again.
Oh my goodness.
But she was fine. She didn't have to go to the hospital. She
Okay,
was,
good.
yeah, yeah. And then, um, and she was doing quite well. She couldn't walk or anything, but she was getting dressed. She was going places, like when they could take her out. She was having her pedicure and her manicure. Couldn't remember squat. Like, so
Mm.
she'd say to us, like, "Oh, I haven't talked to you in days." And we'd say, "Oh, well, sorry, Mom," but we had just talked to her the day before. Do you
Oh
know
my
what I
God, that's so beautiful though.
Yeah, so we knew not to say, and then, the kids called her all the time, and, like, my son Jason was, having a baby, like, every few weeks, I had to say to her, "Oh, and Jason and Lauren are having a baby."
Like it's new information.
It's brand new. Yeah, and, but, she was doing very well, and then in November, she developed, another kidney stone, but this time she went into septic shock,
Oh,
and actually what happened, Jason and Lauren came in to visit her, and, with Shay, and, we went over on the Friday, and she was not well, so we left. And Saturday morning, I called, and she said, "I'm not okay." And then Saturday afternoon, she called, and she said, "I'm feeling better, come back, come visit." So Sharon and Lori, Jason, Lauren, Shay, myself, Frank, we all went over to visit her, and then she seemed to be not okay. And the next day, we got a call from the caregiver that we took her to the hospital, and, Sharon went and met her at the hospital because she lived closest to the hospital. And,
mhm.
they took her in for surgery, and it's turned out that she had, a septic kidney stone, and she developed sepsis.
Wow.
And, once she was in ICU, Sharon went back to Florida, so I stayed. I was here. And so I was here during the whole time while she was in the hospital. And when I spoke to the doctor had said to me she was well enough to go home, but that she would never be okay.
Mm,
That she would never go back to who she was. She wouldn't recover. She wouldn't be okay. And I tried to explain that to my siblings, and I'm not so sure how much it penetrated,
mm,
because Mom always bounced back. The same with Rosie. Rosie had gone home for 7 weeks. We had put her into, a retirement home on the memory
mhm.
care floor because there was nobody there to drive or cook. Her caregiver still went in. But she'd only been there 4 days before she ended up in the hospital. She was in the hospital for several weeks. It was sometime in December when she got out. And, and, uh, she had the stent kept in, and so when they told us to go and take the stent out, I spoke to the doctor. I went in. He actually let me go in and watch him do it.
Mm.
And I said to him, he said he showed me that she was already forming kidney stones around the stent. And
Oh,
I said to him, uh, can can we put her on a low dose antibiotic to maintain her over the holidays? And he said, I think that's a good idea. So we put her on 2 weeks, and we all actually went on holiday, a badly needed holiday for all of us with our kids, because we have to work, you have to work around the schedule.
mhm.
And when we got back, seemed not bad, and she played bridge with her friends, and they all called to tell me how well she was. I don't know how well she played bridge, but they all got together and they'd have lunch. And then, like, they played on whatever day it was, and then she started to that week, I think she started getting really sick. So like the next week, I called her friends to tell them. I had the doctor come in, and we sort of knew she wasn't going to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
And and Sharon, everybody was, Linda was, uh, Linda was still in Toronto, and Mom really wanted to go home. So Linda and Rosie wasn't back yet. So Linda said, and I had pneumonia.
Oh my
So
God.
Linda said, I'll come in and I'll cook and grocery shop so Mom can come home for her birthday. Her birthday was January 11th. We brought her home January 10th. She had no idea where she was, none.
Mm-hmm.
And then Linda stayed until Rosie got back. Oh, actually, she was still okay. Then she had lunch. Then she did the bridge after her birthday.
Okay.
And then she turned bad. It's sort of hard to remember. It's
Yeah.
melding in together. But then she turned very bad, like a week after Rosie was back or so. And Linda had gone home. Lori and Sharon were in Florida. And I had the doctor come in, and we had brought in an end of life kit for her because we knew that she wanted to stay in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And she was quite unwell for a good week or more, and then I could tell that this was going to be near the end.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda came back. Linda and I were there. And I called Sharon and Lori because Linda didn't want to do it. And I told them they had to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them said they didn't want to see her take her last breath. And I said, you don't have to stay, but you have to come and say goodbye. Not for me,
Right.
not for her, for them.
Right.
And they came home, and she had stopped eating, she had stopped drinking. And but she was very stubborn. She went on. Even the doctor said she lasted much longer than they thought. Lori stayed for about 5 days and left, and
Mm.
said, call me after she's passed. Sharon got mad at me and yelled at me, and I said, so go back to Florida, I'll call you when she's passed. And but she stayed.
Mm.
And then all the kids, like Allison came in,
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn and Hudson came in. Daniel had just been there a week before, so he said, I want to remember her the way I saw her when she was good.
Yeah.
Jason and Lauren were having a baby any minute, so they didn't come in. And Jonathan and Amy came in, and Linda's kids came in. And we were all, most of us were there when she took her last breath.
Mm.
The last hour, we called Erica because she's a doctor, and she helped us walk through the last hour.
Mm.
Because the caregivers didn't know what to do, and neither did we. So Erica we didn't know, should we give her more morphine? The doctor said we could, but we didn't know what to do.
Right.
And actually, Carolyn actually has the video of my mom taking her last breath. She saved it. And we kept sending all her stats to Erica so Erica could update us. And have you ever been around a person when they die?
Both of my in-laws and multiple of my residents.
Yeah, so they sort of they're dead and then they take this last breath, right?
Uh-huh.
So Eric had already told us based on her stats that she had passed, but she was still breathing. And then she stopped. And then, like a minute later, she took that last breath. And we were all there. She felt loved.
Certainly. And she knew it.
And she did it her way. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Pretty raw. It was a lot of responsibility. Sharon and I mostly felt it
Mhm.
because we're the ones in Ottawa.
Mhm.
Linda pitched in a lot. My brother's a boy,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
it was a lot. It was a lot. Um, and uh, for me, it wasn't shocking. For Linda, it wasn't shocking. It was a little, Sharon and Lori, I think, were in a little more denial. Rosie, for sure, was in denial. She
Mm,
fought with us a lot, Rosie, because she felt like we should do more. Why
mm.
aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? So finally I pulled her aside when the girls explained to me from her religion, we should be doing everything we can.
I
And I
see.
explained to her that we had discussed this with mom many years ago on her wishes. And we were following her wishes. And although it may not agree with what she felt we should do,
Mhm.
this is what mom wanted. I think in the end she got it, but she
Yeah.
struggled a lot after mom passed, a lot. She went home for back to the Philippines for 6 weeks and she couldn't
Mm.
function. She seems better now. We've been in touch. So, yeah.
Well, and exactly what that's so beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful, the advocacy that you did for her and the
Oh,
bonding of the family
yeah.
and I mean there were a lot of decisions to be made and
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like everybody maybe always agreed with
We
every
always agreed in the decision. We
okay.
always talked. We always agreed in the decision. Always. We always agreed in the decision. It's just some of us were more aware than others of where she was in her illness. That's a better way to put it. We
Yes.
always agreed in the decision.
Yeah.
I mean, we agreed on how to do it. We agreed on when to bring her home. We always agreed on all that. And, like when it was my mom's birthday, my brother wasn't going to come in. And I called my brother, I'm always a caller. I called my brother and I said, come in for mom's birthday. It's probably going to be her last birthday. Come in for her birthday. And he did. And he was so happy he came in.
Mm,
And like in November, our friend's daughter was getting married. She's actually a relative. Do you remember Mark and Lee's Thaw?
yes, yeah.
Okay. So Elena was getting married and mom was going to the wedding and Lori wasn't going to go. And I said, you have to go. You have to go. They show up to everything. You have to show up to it. And mom came to the wedding. They actually had to hold it because she was late. Oh, shop.
Hmm.
And we had a blast with her. It was wonderful. She turned like this. She got the kidney stone about a week after that. And from
Mm.
that point on, it was downhill. But he said to me afterwards, thank you for making me come. It was so good to be there and see it all.
Yeah.
So, the guys that live in Toronto, like even, Linda said, we're talking about doing her unveiling, in the Jewish religion, we do an unveiling and her stone's ready. And, you know, we want to do it like some of us, I'm kind of in the middle. Some of the siblings want to invite other extended family. Some of the siblings just wanted to be immediate family. We can't agree on when to do it. That's probably the most we've ever argued on anything, including business.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal. In the end, we'll find a compromise. But
Right.
really, I think my parents would be really proud
Yeah.
of how well we get along. And I think that's their legacy.
Mm.
And I'm proud of us too.
I mean, what you all being in business alone can tear a family apart. Being in this caregiving, helping an aging family member, that also can tear families apart. Like geography, not
Right.
not being on the same page necessarily about getting to the, like we all agree upon the goal, but then people don't necessarily agree on how to get there. Like there have been so many avenues um, where this could have really collapsed.
But
And
it didn't. We were just, even now, I don't know, you may want to put this part in, but like we're dividing up my mom's jewelry, and it's getting to a point where we're going, no, you take this. No, no, you take this. No, no, you take this. That's
yeah,
how not fighting we are.
yes. I mean,
You
and
know,
that's a
like,
beautiful thing.
yes, because like it's it's irrelevant on the grand scheme of things. It's all irrelevant. It really is. And maybe we feel that way because we're so fortunate, but
And I think that so many times that's another example of something that really does tear families apart. They get their
yeah,
grief gets channeled into, well, I want this and I want that, but really what's
exactly.
happening is grief.
Exactly. And for us, there's none of that.
Right.
And honestly, you know, we just all miss her very much. And, you know, after she passed, like there's in the Jewish religion, it's very significant the first 30 days, and then you do like a memorial thing. So the kids, Sharon and Lori, were in Florida. So uh, Frank and I flew down and stayed with Lori and Chantel, and Linda flew down and stayed with Sharon and Lori. And we did this thing with the rabbi by Zoom. And then we spent a whole long weekend, the four of us together, and we did everything together.
Mm,
It was comforting.
yes.
We get a lot of comfort, and when we're having a bad day, we text each other, I'm having a bad day. Like it seems like we've really gelled as a family, which is really nice. So
And very unique and special, I think. I mean, I'm really trying to elevate the fact that what you and your siblings have and what you've created together is unique and special.
well, thank our parents.
Yeah.
They gave us a sense of family,
Yes.
and I hope we can pass that down to our kids
Yeah.
and our grandchildren.
And the bounty of grandchildren that keep coming.
Exactly. It's overwhelming. The day I found out about Carolyn, don't put this in.
Oh, don't say it.
No, well, are you going to do it after? When are you going to show this?
We can decide the date. You tell me.
Okay, the end of August is good.
Okay.
Okay, because then
Okay.
everybody will know. The day I found out about Carolyn, I walked outside and said to Frank, okay, pour me a drink. Like I was overwhelmed. Really, I was overwhelmed. Like
Yeah.
every day I was getting another call. I was overwhelmed.
Right.
So, and we were flying to go away that day. I was overwhelmed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because Carolyn kept talking about it, and Spencer kept saying, no, no,
No,
no,
no,
not
no.
having another one. So she called me because she said, I have to call and tell you because like Spencer told me he's not talking to me today. I went, well, I'm really excited. So I
I
was
think it's
excited, but in
beautiful.
shock that it was like so many in a
Yeah.
row. But my parents had that too. I think they had 7 grandchildren in 1 year. That's what
Oh
happens when
my
you have a lot of
gosh.
kids. And we were all really close in age too, right? Except
Yes.
for Linda. So, yeah,
On my dad's side, we have 9 grandchildren in 5 years.
right. So I'm going to be, it's 6 years and I'll be 9, 8.
9,
I'll be 8.
yes.
Yeah,
And there's
8.
a chance they're gonna just keep coming.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, Jason's finished. Jason and Lauren are finished.
Yes.
Carolyn and Spencer are definitely finished.
Yeah.
I think Allison's finished, but Daniel's just beginning.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
getting
And
one step
remember, I have 4 other grandchildren on Frank's
on
side.
Frank's side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of grandchildren.
That's so fun. And
Mm.
you everybody called your mother Bubby.
Bubby. Yeah.
Yeah. And she delighted in them. You could see like in pictures where she's holding the different babies. So
Oh, yeah.
several of the great grands got to meet her.
She really only really knew Hudson, really,
Mhm.
because the others were all born during COVID and well, they came to see her and visit. I mean, her dementia was not good,
Mhm.
but Hudson, she really cherished them, because she
Oh,
really did get to play with him and see him and
right.
remember him. And she loved, she loved, like when we were talking to the rabbi said, all the grandchildren, a lot of the grandchildren were with us when the rabbi came over to talk to us after she died. And they said, they kept saying, I was the favorite. No, I was the favorite. Like everybody thought they were the favorite,
And felt it.
everybody, which is a testament to how she was as a grandmother,
Yeah.
because they all thought they were the favorite.
Yeah.
So I, they all adored her, and she was an amazing grandmother. Like she used to fly into Toronto for graduation. So my grandson graduated from nursery. I flew into Toronto for the day between doctor's appointments to be at his graduation. Well, because that's what she used to do. So that's the example she set for us, right?
Right.
So, yeah, she
Very
was a
much
great
so.
mom too. Yeah. She had to, my dad got sick at a very young age. She had to take care of my dad.
Mhm.
And she was an amazing wife. And I think she taught us all well. I think they both taught us all well.
Yeah. And it has continued with your children and I'm sure your siblings' children and
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
they're all good people.
Yeah.
I have a question because she was able to have the caregiver at home, and sometimes people struggle to do respite care, where she like went and stayed at the nursing home for just like a period of time.
It was only while Rosie was away because mom kept a kosher home and
Yes.
the
Okay.
caregivers could drive. Whereas, so we felt there was no one to grocery shop and cook. So that's why she was there. We
Mhm.
kind of were hoping she'd like it. We put it in a place where some of her friends were, but
Mhm.
she was only there for 4 days and then she got sick. And then
Yeah.
when she got back, um, she like just was never herself. Like
Right.
she stayed over the Christmas holidays, but kept saying, I want to leave. And I will tell you, the day we brought her home, she had no idea where she was. None. So I don't know if she ever knew she was at home or not,
Mm.
honestly. Maybe in her bedroom,
Yeah.
maybe. But she was very confused. And I don't think if Rosie hadn't been going home, I think we would have just kept her at home the whole
Sure.
time.
Sure.
Yeah. Although this is the one where we didn't agree. I was hoping, we didn't disagree. I was hoping that being around other people her age would be good for her, and uh and and she never got the chance to really see.
Mhm.
I think Sharon was probably the one who felt like, let's just keep her at home. I was just going along with whatever anybody wanted, but I was hoping that maybe it would make her more social. She was always an extremely social woman,
Mhm.
but I mean, crap happens,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, and she never got that opportunity to even adjust.
Right.
Oh, but yeah.
How much do you feel like your faith kind of carried you through this process?
Oh God. I don't know. I'm a very spiritual person.
Mhm.
There's my kids keep calling me um to decline this, sorry. Um I'm a very spiritual person, but I don't know if I really tapped into my faith because um when my dad died, he was much younger, and I I tapped into it a lot more. Mom was 89, really, except for the last couple of years. She had had an amazing life. I
Mhm.
never thought she'd survive as long as she did without my dad because they were such a unit, and she did amazing. She was great. And her and I traveled to the world together because I was the eldest, so my kids were the eldest, so I was the one who went traveling with her.
Right.
And I don't know, because in my mind, did I hope she'd make it to 90? Yes. But I was okay with the fact that she passed. I think we were all okay. You know,
Right.
dad was only 77. Like, she got so many more years. So I feel like we were, I feel like we were okay. And all we cared about was treating her with respect and honoring her wishes.
Mm. Which that's such a good reminder for people to have those conversations. Like just be practical and pragmatic
Exactly.
about it and to just have the conversation so people know what you want.
Exactly, because my dad died suddenly, and there we had
Mm.
lots of questions, that because he never wanted to talk about it. But mom and I think we learned a lot, and so did mom. So we were quite open about what she wanted and all of that. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, I'll speak for myself, and I think we all have living wills. My dad never had one. Mom had a living will.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we also talked about it as she got older. Yeah. When, yeah.
When I turned 30 and had our first child, that was the gift from my father was he paid for an attorney to do power of attorney, living will,
Oh,
paperwork.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I paid for my own. I
Yeah.
did it uh, when I first had kids, and then I redid it again when I got divorced. I probably have to redo it again now that I have grandchildren.
I think someone said every 10 years or big life changes or something.
Yeah, so
I'm
I
sure there's
just
a
was
formula.
waiting. My dad named all his grandchildren in the will, and I wanted to do the same. So I was just waiting until they're finished having kids. But hopefully I'll make it through there. So far, so good. So
Yes.
yeah.
You seem very at peace. Do you feel at peace? You seem at
Yeah,
peace.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I'm very much at peace. I I I feel like I did a great job.
Yeah.
And it was your time. Yeah. And I feel like we're we're all good. We're all
Mhm.
good,
Yes,
including my kids. Yeah, so that's good.
that's very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
Did
you
you
have Go ahead.
did you see Mom's funeral?
I did not have a chance. I
I
don't
know
know
your
where we
sister and
were.
your mom watched it.
Right, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
where we were, if we were on the road, but I did not have a chance to see it.
Anyhow, the kids, like really, the kids, I mean, I thought we spoke beautifully because Linda spoke, but we did the eulogy together.
Mhm.
And it was honestly, it was, it sounds weird. We had so much fun doing it, remembering back,
Yeah.
laughing, and we had to kept saying, no, it's not a roast. It's not a roast. Don't make it a roast. Because Mom was so funny. Like she didn't know she was funny, but she was so funny. And the kids were spoke brilliantly, but more than that, it was one from each family, and they all had a different relationship. Like
Mhm.
Daniel was the last one to leave Ottawa, so he had an adult relationship with his grandmother.
Mm, mhm.
None of the other kids did, right? So they all spoke differently. It was really about their relationship, their family relationship, and it was quite interesting to listen to and hear. And they did they did my parents proud.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
What another beautiful reminder for people that everybody has a different relationship with the person.
Right.
So
But
having space where that can be honored for each of them.
right. So we're too many to have everybody talk.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why we did it by family. We did the kids, and then one representative of each family spoke.
Yeah.
Not too long, just enough, but
Yeah.
it gave a whole picture of who Mom was,
Yeah.
which is I think why you have a funeral.
Right. I
Right.
agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you have parting words for another family who is experiencing this? Their loved one is up and down, and decisions are having to be made, and there's multiple people involved, and just, any final thoughts for people who are on this road?
um I'll look at it in a minute, okay? Sorry, my husband just came in.
That's okay.
Um I guess the thing is, I would say is try to have a conversation ahead of time
Mhm.
so you know what their wishes are. Follow their wishes. It's not about you, it's about them. Make sure you say goodbye
Mhm.
for you, not them. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I know that you don't want that leadership matriarchy role in your family. Your sister is happy to take the realm, but I think you have an established demeanor that is leaving its own legacy within the family. Like,
well, thank you.
yeah, it's very good. It feels very reassuring, really.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
was always the peacemaker. That's my role as the eldest.
Oh,
You're just two of you, right?
yes.
Yeah, but in four, we all have our roles.
Right.
I'm the peacemaker, Sharon's the middle child, Lori's Linda's the baby, and Lori just goes off in his own little world because he's the only boy.
Right.
But so by being the peacemaker, it almost defines the role before you even have a chance.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much
thanks.
for sharing this story with me. And I really do feel confident it's going to help other people. Other people are going to hear this and be like, we
I
can do
hope so.
this. We can do
I
this.
hope so. I
Yeah.
did. Thank you. Thanks for contacting me.
Thank you so much, Ellen.
Okay, thanks. Bye now.